No, it's my scarf good.
It is, man.
So, Coffee County.
Yes, ma'am.
I knew there was a court order for Antrim. I didn't know whether there was a court order or not for Coffee County. And now I understand there was not a court order that authorized it, but I paid for it anyway. I was very concerned when I saw the possibility of information being posted online. I do know that election systems are important, and I consider, frankly, any kind of data like that confidential, which is why I intended to get court orders in the cases that I filed or leave it alone.
So the last question that I asked was, when did you realize that there was no legal right to that information out of Coffee County?
In the process of this lawsuit, I realized that there was no court order for Coffee County.
What lawsuit?
You're indicting me.
Oh, I see. So it wasn't until...
I didn't get any data from it. There are even text messages from Jim Penrose to Doug Logan saying they're not going to brief me on anything from it.
So it wasn't until this indictment you found out that you were named in the indictment that you realized that you didn't have a legal right to the information in Coffee County. Is that what you were saying?
Yes.
What was your response when I asked you a moment ago why you would have been getting updates from Sullivan Strickler if you were done, if that was the understanding you're done?
Well, I think it was because they wanted money from me.
Was he emailing those same updates to the executive director? Or?
No. He was texting the same updates to Charles Bundren.
I want to pivot back to the December 18th meeting for a minute. So, what other topics of conversation were there? Did you discuss the ASOG report with the president? Did you have other general discussions about Dominion with him?
At some point, I think I told him about what I call the Dominion effect. We had two witnesses, independent of each other. In fact, one who didn't believe it when he heard me say it, that had done the math and realized that wherever Dominion was, there is a 5 to 6% increase in votes for Biden. And the first guy was, I think his last name was Teasley, and the second guy, I think, is an actuary in Austin who heard me say that whenever I said it. It may have been at the press conference, I don't remember that either. But he didn't believe it, went and did his own research and went, holy cow, she's right. And Dominion's response to that was to serve him with a 2-foot-high stack of documents that they had filed against me in the lawsuit in DC.
Okay, so he continued to be interested in the election machine frauds and Dominion specifically at that point.
Who, the president?
The president.
Yeah, I would say he was interested in it all along.
Okay, so even though there's that reporting that I think a month before he had muted and said, this is crazy, like he never told you, like, this is crazy, stop giving me this information.
No.
What sort of things was he saying in December 18th specifically?
Well, he knew all his instincts told him he had been defrauded, that the election was a big fraud.
And when you say his instincts, did he ever describe that in any way? Did he ever point to any kind of proof or evidence or anything he was getting from his other attorneys or experts?
Well, he talked about, seeing the vote totals roll backwards on the TV.
Meaning on election night?
Yeah. And the unbelievable spikes how far ahead he was in different states at the time all the machines stopped counting, and how it should have been impossible to make up that sort of vote difference without some kind of shenanigans. Just general instincts that something wasn't right here.
So I guess, and these are specifically conversations you had with him on December 18th, or these are conversations that took place in these various phone calls, or both?
Not so much in the phone calls. It was mainly the first meeting where I probably talked about it more than anybody else did, and he was generally talking about how it was stolen from him, and then specifically December 18th.
Okay. And I think you had said before, his instincts were that he had lost, and if it got to the point where he felt he didn't lose, or that he did not win, that he would back out or bow.
No, his instinct was he had won.
Right. And so, but you had said before, if he got to the point where the facts were telling him you've lost, he would then bow out. That was either what he said to you or the sense that you got.
Yeah, he said something very clearly to that effect.
Okay, but then on the 18th, the only real justification that he's giving you to why he's not bowing out is that his instincts tell him that he won.
That and the evidence that I'd showed him.
Ms. Powell, were you ever around when anyone told Donald Trump that he had lost the election?
Oh, yeah.
Who?
Pat Cipollone, Eric Hirschman, Derek Lyons, all thought he'd lost.
Was that in the December 18th meeting?
Yes.
Were they giving him, I guess, evidence as to why he had lost? What did they say? They just said you lost? Did they give him examples of, we know you lost because of X, Y, and Z?
I don't remember the X, Y, and Z. That's kind of, that statement that they didn't think he'd won is what prompted the shouting match with General Flynn and Eric Hirschman. Because Flynn said, he said, you don't even believe he won, and they all kind of look at their shoes, and then, it's like fireworks go off.
Were you ever privy to a conversation between Donald Trump and John Eastman?
No, I don't know Mr. Eastman.
What was President Trump's reaction when, I guess, this cadre of advisors would say you lost?
It was like, they would say that, and then they'd walk out, and he'd go, see, this is what I deal with all the time.
Okay.
So the sense was that they were not helping him with his efforts to overturn the election. That's what he expressed.
They weren't helping, yeah, correct.
What ultimate indication did President Trump give after you and Mr. Giuliani had your debate about how to access voting machines? Did he ever say,
He was specifically willing to appoint me special counsel. In fact, he looked over at Cipollone 3 different times and said, do I have the authority to name her special counsel? And Cipollone said, yes, you do. And then somebody said, well, she doesn't have a security clearance. So he looked at Cipollone and he said, do I have the authority to give her a security clearance? And Cipollone said, yes, you do. And then about the 3rd time we went through that scenario, Cipollone, I think, said, you can name her anything you want, Mr. President, and nobody's going to pay a bit of attention to it.
what was President Trump's sense of what you would do as special counsel?
I guess he assumed, and I would have thought that I would have looked at putting into effect a provision of 13848 that would have allowed the machines to be secured in 4 or 5 states or cities, and see about doing a bipartisan or military or whatever everybody agreed on review of the machines forensically.
How did you choose which states that you would target?
How would I have chosen that? By the ones where there were the most statistical anomalies or impossibilities, according to the experts.
Were you privy to a conversation between President Trump and Mark Meadows?
When?
Anytime.
Well, I'm sure Mark was saying something that night.
What was his position?
I'm trying to remember. I think his position was that it was all over and everybody needed to go home.
It was all over, meaning that Donald Trump had lost.
Yes.
Can I ask a question? So, Pat Cipollone thought he lost. Eric Hirschman thought he lost. What was the other guy's name?
Derek Lyons.
Derek Lyons thought he lost.
Yep.
Mark Meadows thought he lost. And so, the president then decided that he was going to appoint you as a special counsel at that point, right? Or you
Yeah,
wanted to do that?
Yep.
And the only people in the meeting that were indicating that they think he didn't lose were you,
Him
General Flynn, and him.
and Patrick Byrne and
Patrick
Emily
Byrne.
Neiman.
Okay.
Or that he might not have lost. Again, you know, all of us were saying, I remember Mark Meadows saying, you can't show that anybody actually flipped a vote. And I said, well, that's why the forensics would be important, to know whether you can confirm if that actually happened or not. To me, it was as important to prove the legitimacy of Biden's election as it would be to prove the legitimacy of Trump's if he was elected, because the country doesn't need this division we've had for the last 3 years and all the doubts about it.
So you never got that though?
I never got it.
But you needed the machines in whatever form to show that the votes would have been flipped.
That's
Right.
what people kept saying.
Is that what you were saying?
No, I thought we had enough evidence to show it already.
But you wanted to get access to the machines?
Yeah, I wanted to show definitively if that's what it took, so we could all put it to rest.
Were you ever present or aware of any White House staffers telling the president that he had won the election?
I can't think of any,
Okay.
unless, I mean,
How about any campaign staff other than if you consider Rudy Giuliani to become part of the campaign later on?
I wasn't present for campaign staff talking to him. I think there may have been some White House staffers that believed he won.
And who would that be
Garrett Ziegler and whoever the other young man was that let us in that night.
that let you in? So when you left the meeting that night, was it your understanding that President Trump wanted you to become special counsel and ultimately wanted to implement executive order, is it 13848?
He, my impression was he wanted me to be special counsel. We all knew it wasn't going to happen, and he was open to considering the implementation of 13848. And Mark Meadows and Rudy Giuliani left going one way, and I left going another, and I had no doubt seeing Mark and Rudy walking out one way together that it wasn't going to happen.
And I may have missed it, but who brought up the idea of special counsel?
I don't remember. I think it might have been Flynn and Patrick Byrne. Or Patrick Byrne,
And then Trump asked, hey, can I do this?
yes,
So he caught on, he liked it.
yes. He made a comment, well, you know, no, they have an idea here, meaning me and Patrick Byrne and General Flynn and Emily, they have an idea here that would tell us something, and you guys, like this, you guys are offering me nothing.
Did you ever follow up about becoming special counsel?
I called Mark Meadows the next morning just to run it to ground and said, hey, when can I come pick up my badge and my key?
And what did Mr. Meadows say?
He essentially laughed. I mean, he said, you know, it's not going to happen.
Did
But
he give
I
you a
already-
reason?
I already knew that. No, he didn't have to.
What was Mr. Meadows' role in the December 18th meeting?
I would say trying to diffuse some of the, lower the temperature in the room and try to make sure people were heard in a civil way.
So when the back and forths were happening, I guess between you and Rudy, and then between Flynn and Hirschman, was Meadows taking sides? What was he weighing in one way or the other?
He thought, well, this is my impression because I can't remember his words. My impression was he thought everybody needed to pack up and go home. And I think somebody even said that to him. It might have been Flynn, about how, you know, none of you are supporting the president, and it just dawned on me, do I have an attorney-client privilege issue there? No. Okay. None of you are supporting the president, and, you know, we need to get to the bottom of what happened here. But, you know, that's what got Flynn's Irish dander up, I would say, is the fact that nobody seemed to want a complete resolution of it or to do anything to support the president.
What's your relationship now with Donald Trump?
I haven't talked to him since January of 2021. I think we had a very short, fun conversation to say Happy New Year and hope things go well, and that was it.
I want to just back up for 1 second. I'm gonna keep going back and forth.
It's all right.
How did Coffee County become like the county to go to? How did that become of interest?
I really don't know. Apparently, from what emails I've seen and putting two and two together after the meeting that night, I think it's probably Coffee County that Rudy was talking about there, but to my recollection, he didn't mention the name of the county or even the state. He might have said Georgia, but I couldn't swear to that.
And why do you say that? Why do you say you think that's the county he was talking about?
Because
What about that county makes you think that?
Because he was talking about getting voluntary access, and then it's not long after that meeting that he's down here testifying in Georgia and talking to the legislators and the same people that wound up in what I call the Coffee County Caucus Group. And then they get permission, or think they have permission December 31st to go see the machines. Catherine Freeze is texting about it in those signal messages.
Do you know, or do you know what the results of the election in Coffee County were?
No, I don't even know.
Do you know whether it went for Trump or did it go for?
I think I heard it went for Trump.
Did it go for Trump in a, if you know, in a significant majority?
I don't know.
Did Rudy mention Georgia there on December 18th in the White House?
I think he did, but I couldn't swear to it.
And in what relation did he mention Georgia?
To getting voluntary access to the machines there.
Mr. Reed had mentioned before that after the December 18th meeting, you had a number of phone calls with President Trump. Generally, can you give us the substance of those calls? I know you had mentioned the litigation, maybe updates on that. Did you continue to discuss the issues that you discussed in the Oval Office on December 18th? Either the executive order, being special counsel, Dominion voting machines?
Not that I remember. Do we have any idea how, and you know, a conversation could have been with Mark Meadows, although I don't think so. I think it was with the president. But unless I had some new information, I mean, he was probably calling to find out if I had anything new that would help resolve the issues, but.
Okay, but suffice to say you continued to have access to him after that meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you remember the December 21st meeting with Phil Waldron and Mark Meadows and Rudy Giuliani that you went to?
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's the one where Rudy got really ugly.
Okay.
Yep, and that went to foreign interference.
So how'd that meeting come about?
I know there were a group of Congress people going, I think that was the day, was that the day the Congress people were going for some kind of special meeting?
I can't remember.
Okay. There were a bunch of Congress people going in. I think Mark had asked me to come over for a meeting. I don't remember knowing who all was gonna be there. I think I thought I was gonna go to the big meeting with the Congress people,
Okay.
but I wound up being pulled off into the little meeting with Mark and Phil and Rudy and Catherine Fries.
Okay, what happened?
There was a big shouting match in which Rudy called me every name in the book, and I was the worst lawyer he'd ever seen in his life. There were no circumstances under which he'd work with me on anything. He called me a bitch and I don't know what all. And that's pretty much all I remember about that one.
And who did you go with? Did you go by yourself?
Yeah,
And was Phil Waldron already there?
yes,
And was Rudy already there?
I think so.
And it was, so Mark Meadows, he's the one that contacted you and said, hey, come.
I think so.
So even a few days after December 18th, President's Chief of Staff is still reaching out to you about presumably the election.
If that was the 21st,
Okay.
I thought that was before that, but
Okay.
Were you and Mark Meadows, would you say you're friends?
I thought of him as a friend before all this. I still think of him as a friend, but I haven't had any contact with him.
Who else would you say? Or
Mark's
think
from
of?
North Carolina. I'm a native of North Carolina. He was from my district in North Carolina when he was in Congress.
I see. Who else would you think of as a friend? You've seen the indictment, the Georgia
Right.
indictment that
Yeah,
you named.
do we have a copy of it, Andy?
Yes.
Who on that indictment would you think of as a friend?
I used to think of Bernie Carrick as a friend, that disappeared. Okay, I don't know Chesbrough, I don't know Clark. I thought of Jenna Ellis as a friend until the same stuff with Rudy. I mean, she was like attached to Rudy's hip. I don't know Still, I don't know Lee, I don't know Harrison Prescott Floyd, I don't know Cootie or Cuddy. I only know Kathy Latham with respect to her being a plaintiff in our suit. I think I had a couple of group calls with the plaintiffs, but no one-on-one conversation with her that I remember. I don't know Misty Hampton. I know Scott Hall from the alligator hunt, and we just kept in touch.
Have you spoken with any of those people since the indictment?
No. I actually texted Scott Hall the day I was to be booked, because I was going to ask him about a bond, but he didn't reply. And then once I saw my bond conditions, I understood why he hadn't answered me.
Okay, but nobody else on that list?
No.
Patrick Byrne, let's go back to Patrick Byrne. Did he want to become a member or a person on the board of Defending the Republic?
Yes.
Okay, and when did that discussion start taking place?
Maybe December.
And did it cut off at a certain point where you told him, hey, no, or did it keep on?
No, he actually was on the board for a while, and he became CEO essentially for a brief time.
When was that brief time?
That was, I think, April of 2021.
Okay. But in December of 2020, there was discussion about him joining the board.
I think so. It may have been later than that. Though, I mean, our board documents will show when Flynn got off and Patrick got on.
And were you talking or communicating with him in any way throughout December and early January?
I think I saw him several times.
Okay. And what were your conversations about when you saw him?
We were usually talking about the machine stuff. I mean, he's like one of the few people that was in the orbit that understood that, because he had Conan and Todd worked for Patrick.
Where were you on January 6th?
In Asheville, North Carolina, probably sleeping most of the time.
Did you talk to President Trump on that day?
No.
Okay. Did you talk to anybody else in his orbit on that day?
We'd have to look at my phone records.
Okay.
Did you
Things
talk to,
standing out.
did you talk to Marjorie Taylor Greene?
I think she woke me up that morning.
You had a 20-minute phone call. Do you remember what that phone call was about?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Seems kind of out of the blue.
Well, we've talked different times.
Okay.
I talked to her at one point. She was thinking about being a plaintiff in one of the suits, but that morning it was probably, what the hell's going on? And, I'd told everybody that I needed to get the hell out of D.C.
Why?
Because I didn't think any of it was a good idea. I knew they weren't putting out porta potties. I knew they were going to blockade the streets.
Who was going to blockade the streets?
I heard the mayor was, that they were going to blockade off the bridges, and anybody that wanted to come in would have to walk in. I just saw it as a really bad idea to have a rally over the end of the Trump presidency. I just wouldn't have encouraged people. In fact, I did. There's several people that had plans to come up that I told not to come, and they didn't come.
Were you in any of the meetings during the time that you were working with the campaign? Were you in any of the meetings where discussions came up of other ways to possibly get the election overturned?
Well, I can't say I worked with the campaign. I mean, there was really only that one very short meeting that everybody got up and walked out on that I was in that first time I went over to campaign headquarters. And the campaign people were talking about doing a couple of basic vanilla election contest suits in a couple of states. And that was all. It was clear to me they weren't prepared for anything. They'd apparently told the president, they had everything covered. They had lawyers all over the country to take care of whatever, and they weren't prepared for anything.
So you weren't privy to any conversations involving the planning of, let's say, the bright idea to attack the recount, have a recount in Georgia, or to get someone to call a special session, or
No,
you had never heard those ideas?
I wasn't present for any conversations about anything Rudy was planning to do. He would not have included me in that.
I want to go back and ask you a quick follow-up on a specific statement you made earlier when you were at Linwood's plantation to Motley, and he took you aside and he said that Bernie Carrick wanted to express for you to quote-unquote get back on the reservation.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. Is this a sentiment that Rudy Giuliani had expressed to you before that?
No.
Okay.
But I was sure it came directly from him.
Okay, so your understanding was that Bernie Carrick was
Speaking
middleman.
Yeah.
And what did you take that to mean?
That they wanted me doing whatever Rudy told me to do.
What was Rudy telling you to do?
Well, that was never really clear, other than whatever it is he wanted to do.
What was his plan? I heard you say yours was the computers and the fraud. To your understanding, what was his plan?
Well, I think he had the plan to go talk to the legislators. He was wanting to talk about all the, quote, retail levels of fraud. I think I heard that he'd even taken the fraud claim out of a suit in Pennsylvania. He dropped it, which was going to get nobody anywhere. I mean, there's retail fraud in every election. So the only thing that would make a difference in quote, overturning the election is if there was actual evidence of a significant fraud that would justify changing the result.
So is it fair
To
to say,
enforce the will of the voters, not to overturn it.
is it fair to say that your interpretation of get back on the reservation is generally just fall in line, like start doing what we tell you to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't even really know what that was.
Other than the retail stuff, briefing Rudy about everything you're doing and doing whatever he said.
Right.
Okay.
And I wasn't interested in any kind of political solution to this. To me, the only way to validly have it addressed was to have the federal court system, number one, get the evidence and discovery in a way that would be legitimate to everyone, and proceed through the court system. I'm an appellate lawyer, that's what I do.
And the interference order, well, going back to the order that you were working on at Tamale, the interference memo order.
The findings.
The findings.
Yeah.
Who did you submit those findings to or send those findings to?
I think I just gave them to the president that night. I don't know whether I left them there or not, but I had them with me.
Okay. The ones you had been working at Tamale?
Yeah.
You brought a hard copy to the White Oval office
Right.
and gave it to the president?
Yeah. I don't know whether I can't say whether it got left there or not, but I remember taking it with me.
And those recommended seizing machines, voting machines?
I don't remember whether it had that recommendation in it. I mean, I can get you a copy of it.
Okay.
But I know it laid out the different things that appeared to me to be evidence of foreign interference in the election.
Why do you think he was so accepting of your theory and not accepting of the theories of the people who had opinions that ran counter to yours?
Can I just step out for a second real quick?
Yep.